Hey guys, welcome back to Mayfield Family Farm. In our last video, we showed you the vermicomposting and the worm towers that we build out of buckets, and those again are available on our website. This video, we're going to be building a new vermicomposter that's a much bigger scale. The other one, the worm tower, is really perfect for those of you who are just backyard gardening. You just have gardens in your backyard, but if you want to go big scale, if you have some larger property, you really want to build, or you want to go commercial and start selling your worm castings to the public on Craigslist or through your networks on through your gardening networks on Facebook or wherever, this is the way to do it, or at least another way. So we're going to be using a 55-gallon barrel. We're going to be cutting it in half and building about a 6-foot-long trough to vermicompost. And the idea is we're going to have two halves that we're going to work worms across each half. And as they work across, we're going to be able to pull up castings and replacing that with food. So we're going to show you how to build that in this video. So here is a couple of designs that I had been working on. These are about a year old that I put these together and just haven't had a chance to build it. I've had the 55-gallon barrel for a couple years now, knowing I was going to do something with it, just didn't know for sure what, and then settled on building into a worm bin last year, and then just haven't done it. So this one was just using one half of a bucket. And again, the buckets are cut lengthwise, so it's just a trough style. So this just had a one bucket length and then about a 2-foot section. So when you have a lid over this, you have about a 6-foot long, about a 5-foot long tabletop to work with, and then the lid will lift up to get to the worms. And then I decided that to use both halves of the bucket. So this is basically the same design, just a little bit longer. So now you're about 6 foot long. You have both your bucket halves that are here. This is the plan view looking down at the top. This is the side view, so you can see the bucket, and this would be the front view when you're standing at it. And again, this has a lid that'll close down, so you can use it for gardening, for doing your potting your plants or anything like that. And then the lid lifts up on hinges, and you'll be able to get right into the worms to drop in your food. More than likely, I'm going to be doing 2 half lids, so that way I can lift up just one side. So if I have stuff on it, I can just move it to one side, or if I just only want to get in one side as I'm adding food while the other side's being composted. So I know these plans aren't super spectacular. These are just my own drawings I put together. More than likely, I will be putting together a primer ebook again, just like I did with quail, that will be on just vermicomposting and building a couple of these different types of vermicomposters. So on this one, I'll get rid of that. On here, you can see the cut mark here that's going down each side, over on each side. And how I got that line is I wanted to make sure these, when I have these halves lengthwise, I want these at the bottom, so that if I did ever want to drain them out or flush them out, I have these as drain holes. And so I didn't want to cut it this way. I wanted to make sure to cut it this way. Well, if I'd have cut it this way, I have a nice line from where the plastics were welded together in the factory, and same with on the bottom and down this side. So it would have been really easy to just cut right along that line, but instead I wanted to do it the other way, so it made it a little bit more difficult. So I just took a 90-degree edge here, and off this line I scribed a line here, did the same thing, flipped it around and drew that line. On the bottom did the same thing because it has another weld line where the plastics are melted together, and then just connected those lines from the top up here to the bottom, drew a straight line down there, and the same thing here. And so I will be cutting this completely in half here in a few minutes, and then building a frame for this all to be mounted together. All right, so you guys see we got the frame all built. The buckets we're just gonna invert, put them in here, make sure they're level, and then screw them on. So we'll show you that update in just a couple seconds. All right, so I went ahead and got the barrel that we cut in half installed. You may have noticed in the last video, I only put a few screws, about 6 per side, but I use sheetrock screws and they will rust. So I just did that temporarily just to get it in there. I will go to the store and get some stainless steel screws and washers and do a little bit more screws to finish it off, mounting it in. And then you'll see the next steps in a second. All right, so since the last video, we've done quite a few steps. We put in the bottom shelf. You saw that in the time-lapse video, as well as preparing the inside. So I got the lid put on, the roof, it's screwed on with hinges. And I'll go ahead and lift this up and show you what I've been doing on the inside, because remember, the bottom of the barrels, we don't want there to be dirt for the worms. We want to have a space so that way all of our leachate and the liquid, the compost tea, will sit at the bottom so we can drain out. So I'll show you some up-close videos here in a second of the drains. There's also some pictures of that, as well as what we've done in the inside to give us a false bottom. And so at this point, we are ready to start putting in manure. I have about 25 gallons, about probably 30 pounds worth of rabbit poop, which we also call bunny berries. And so this will be going in, and then I'm going to be getting some horse manure from my neighbors next door that has a bunch of horses, as well as to put in here. This may be enough for one whole side. If it is, I'm just going to use only the bunny berries there, and we're going to see how the worms do in there. But let me give you a walk around of everything that we've done in here. All right, so you can see that I got the hinges on here all the way across the back. I've also drilled a hole in the bottom, put a spigot or hose bib, and then I silicone that really well on the inside, and I will show you what it looks like here on the outside. So here is the spigot. Let me come around. And so then of course it's just a quarter turn, so we can turn it on and off with the hose bib on the end, so if we want to connect it to a hose. Of course there's our goats and pig and a couple chickens behind. But that is basically how we will drain all the liquid compost out of here. One thing I also did, if you notice, is you can see that there's a little bit more spacing right here than on this corner. So I angled the whole bin down, and I did the same thing on the other side. So that way all the liquid is likely to collect down here to drain out a little bit better whenever it comes time to drain. That will provide a little bit more work because we don't want bugs getting in or worms getting out, so I will have to seal these up a little bit. And then we're probably going to end up doing weather stripping all around. And then another step that I still have to do, that I'm going to kind of just play it by ear and see how this performs as it gets warm. Right now we are under a big cedar tree, but if this starts to get too warm, I will end up coming in here and drilling out like 2-inch or 1-inch holes all along the sides and front and back, and then screen mesh those just as air vents so that more air can get in here for the air exchange. I have these bricks in here just to keep up the lattice that I use as a shelf. So this is basically the shelf. It is just regular plastic lattice, PVC lattice, and then I took aluminum window screen to put around it. So the window screen stops all the dirt and worm castings and soil or anything else from falling through, to keep it up above. And then the lattice just gives it a little bit of structure, so because the fiberglass or the screen would just bend down. I went ahead and used aluminum screen because I figured that's going to outlast a fiberglass screen. And then on the back side, I folded it over and then just put a lot of caulking on there. I used silicone because I know silicone's going to last a lot longer, and that'll hold it down. And then over here on the other side, you'll see what it looks like when the shelf is in. And so it definitely provides a lot of structure here. And then we're gonna go ahead and, at this point, it's ready to fill up. So the next step, you'll see me putting in here the rabbit droppings, or as we call the bunny berries. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of rabbit droppings in here, rabbit pellets. And so we are going to go ahead and just do this amount. It's about half and half right now on each side. And then what I'm going to do is just add about an inch or so more of horse manure to both sides, just to give it an equal amount. And then I'm going to go ahead and put some water on it, and then we're going to add some of the worms that we have. Right now I'm just going to add worms to one side. I'm only going to wet one side and add worms to this side. I may just add a few over here just to get it started, but at least get one side going pretty strong. So the next step is I'm just going to add some water in here, just to wetten it all down, and then start adding the worms. And so what I'm doing right now is just taking all the stuff that was in the one of the worm towers I have. It's all the old paper, shredded paper and food and all the organics that they have been eating over the last who knows how long in here, a couple of years, and just taking it out and putting them into their new home. And you can see the worms as I was dumping it in here upside down. A lot of the worms were at the top of the surface because it was upside down, and they are quickly gonna go down because they don't want to get away from the light, which is going to push them right into the rabbit poop, which is exactly what we want. And I'm just basically making sure we haven't missed any worms in here. Matter of fact, there's one right there. And so a couple things you'll know about worms is, you see the rings they have. Hopefully this is in focus. When a worm is a juvenile or baby, it doesn't have its rings. And once it gets its rings, that means it's reached adulthood and it can start breeding. Another thing about worms is they don't breathe through a mouth. They breathe through their skin. So that's why you saw me putting so much water in here and getting this really wet, because it really needs to be damp so that they have that moisture to be able to move through and be able to breathe at the same time. Once the soil gets too dry for them, they'll actually die because they will suffocate. And so now all the old leachate in here, the liquid, I'm able to now use this on some of my plants that I have growing, and then save some of it for future plants as well. Also, I didn't mention before, I use red wigglers. That's the main worm that I use. One of the main reasons is they are the fastest at metabolizing and composting your scraps, faster than any other worm. You can also use night crawlers. The difference is red wigglers stay within the top about 6 inches of the soil. Your night crawlers are about 6 inches down. They can go down much, much deeper. So in this system, we're only about 6 inches deep. So it really wouldn't be advantageous to the night crawlers. And so that's why we specifically would rather use red wigglers. Plus they perform so much better and faster. They multiply quicker and the reproduction rate is faster. So they're, to us, an all-around better worm to compost with. And one of the things I'm doing too is putting all the worms on one end. Which end doesn't matter, but what I want to do is put them all down here at this end and then check back every few days, and I'll dig up some of the compost just to see how far they're migrating, to see kind of how long it takes them to get to the other end. They may hang out down here for a long time just because there's so much compost that for them to eat. But we will definitely get some that will like to go on vacation and travel around in here. It's just the nature of worms. So that's it with this. We're gonna go ahead and get it closed. While I have a bunch of nasty stuff on my hands, I wanted to say thank you for visiting our videos, watching this great video. Don't forget to visit our website at www.mayfieldfamily.farm. Don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe down at the bottom. Leave a comment, ask a question. Connect with us on Facebook at facebook.com/Mayfield Family Farm. We look forward to connecting with you and to having a conversation. So take care and have a great day.